Hi everyone, and welcome to this presentation on blockchain technology in supply chain planning. This is a concept presentation and was created by Unitech International students Paul, Eimear, Eve and Mahnoor with case advisor Micha Reuters from Evonik. This presentation focuses on blockchain technology in supply chain planning from Evoniks perspective, but it's really important to remember that the problems that Evonik face with their supply chain are global across every company, and so this solution can be transferable across different companies. Let's take a diaper for an example. How did this diaper arrive in the hands of this woman today? Well, it didn't grow on a tree because diapers aren't a raw material. The diaper has been on a journey through its supply chain. This woman has gone to the shop where she bought the diaper. That shop ordered a batch of diapers from the wholesaler. The wholesaler ordered their batch from the manufacturer of the diaper. In this case, that's Procter & Gamble. And Procter & Gamble produced these diapers with many raw materials, one of which is a super absorbent polymer made by Evonik. As well as the super absorbent polymer, there's cotton, there's the elastic waistband, and there's lots more materials, each from a different company. So there's a big network of companies within this one diaper, and the relationship between these is called the supply chain network of the diaper. So supply chain management is very important for any successful company, and supply chain planning is a concept within this field, and it's made up of three components. The first is demand planning, where a company like Evonik says, where is the demand for our materials coming from? They collect all this data and they make a forecast estimated on numbers for the demand. The next is supply planning, where Evonik now know how much material they need to make and meet their demand, but they need to forecast the amount of raw material they need to order from their suppliers. And then the supply and the demand forecasts are combined in sales and operations planning. So supply chain planning is basically the balance of supply and demand whilst considering the available resources of the company. And supply chain planning maximizes the efficiency of the company.
Okay, so now let's take a look into an effect which occurs in the supply chain management, and that is known as the bullwhip effect. So basically, it consists of the idea that a small variation of demand in the customer side would propagate through the supply chain, increasing the variability of demand for each party. So it would go from the retailer, and then it would increase in the distributor, and then to manufacturers, such as Evonik. So the variation of this demand is contracted usually by the companies by having safety stock, right? So as we know, the safety stock is translated in cash flow inverted in that safety stock, which is money that we cannot use, and that's not good for the companies. The reason this bullwhip effect occurs is basically because there's a delay or non-communication between the several parties in the supply chain. There's a lack of trust between those parties, and there's actually no agreement between the different actors inside the supply chain. Just to keep into consideration, and we know that Evonik is deep in the beginning of the supply chain, so this bullwhip effect actually is a great concern for the company. Now, there should be a change of paradigm to make more efficient the supply chain. As we talked about before, my colleague Eimear explained, the supply chain nowadays looks as follows. So the consumer actually goes to the supermarket. Imagine we talk about the diapers again. They go to the supermarket and say, hey, I have a demand, or I expected uncertain demand of around 5 diapers. He will go to the supermarket, or she will go to the supermarket, and then the retailer, knowing that it's not certain the demand, they would, okay, he wants 5, I will just take one more for safety stock. The distributor would do it the same, so he would ask actually to their supplier for 8, just to have a couple in safety stock. The producer would do as follows, and the supplier as follows. So basically, and then the supplier will provide to the producer the goods, the producer to the distributor, until it gets to the consumer. So what we see is that actually it's not very efficient, right? Because for a demand of 5, we're actually producing 10. But now let's imagine this change of paradigm. Imagine that all the the information, the instant information from the consumer and the exact demand will be shared among all the parties in the supply chain. So if the consumer again wants 5, all of those would know that he wants 5, and all of those would produce 5. And that we wouldn't have to produce, in this case, for example, the double amount of goods just to satisfy the demand. The problems, though, for this change of paradigm to happen are that basically there's a lack of trust between the several parties. That's because there's actually no commercial relationship between non-adjacent parties in the supply chain usually. And the information there's not a standard way to share it. So all this doesn't allow this change of paradigm to happen.
So if we take the example of the diaper that we had before and think of all the different materials that it's made up of, it must be a really complex supply chain, right? So Evonik receive an order and they buy from their supplier, and their supplier buy from someone else, and so on and so on and so on. And eventually there's a really, really complex network of what is needed by each person for each different component. Now Evonik will never receive the order for 5 nappies. They will just be told exactly what they need from their retailer. Well, imagine we could create a direct link between Evonik and the end product, which is the diaper in this case. And this chain would show Evonik exactly what was needed and how much of it was needed. It'll be very handy. So, how can we do this? The answer is blockchain. From start to finish, all of this data can be represented using the blockchain. Blockchain is a distributed ledger, which means all the relevant parties can access and add data to it. Each relevant party will add up their own recipe onto the chain. So, for example, Lidl will add 1 diaper. The next block consists of Procter & Gamble, who put together the diaper, and they will add their own recipe onto the supply chain. Then Evonik will add in the components that they need and provide, and so on and so on. Isn't it risky giving everyone access to this confidential data? How can you trust everyone? Basically, all the data is encrypted and can only be accessed by a unique key. There also exists both public and private data. So all Evonik will be able to see is this. All Procter & Gamble will be able to see is this. This ensures that the information is fully protected while also giving automatic and direct access to each party of what they need.
So, what are the benefits of using blockchain technology in supply chain planning? Well, firstly, blockchain provides a complete record of all supply and demand data. Information cannot be edited, only new blocks added. And because of this incorruptible data recording, the blockchain information is completely transparent and trustworthy. Also, we can control who sees the data, ensuring that relevant parties will only see the information that they're granted access to. This is a really scalable network of information that transforms the data of the physical supply chain into a digital chain that can grow infinitely. And the biggest benefit of all is the security aspect of blockchain. It's uncorruptible and cannot be hacked, and it's completely impartial. This makes it a tool with big potential in supply chain applications. So, in conclusion, blockchain technology is a promising technology for use in supply chain planning. It can be used to overcome demand planning inaccuracies due to highly variable demands, lack of trust between companies, non-collaborative relationships between companies, and a delay in information exchange by sharing the information between parties in the supply chain. Overall, this leads to more accurate demand planning, lower levels of safety stock within a company, which means higher cash flow for the company and more efficiency for the company. So that was our presentation on blockchain technology. We hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening.